Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Bitesize podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clayt's AFC on Twitter. The international break is finally over and the North London derby is upon us, the first one of the season. And to preview it with me, we're joined by Mike Halpin, aka Uncle Mike. Welcome back to the pod. How are we?
Good morning. How are you? Enjoy the break?
All good. I did not enjoy the break. No, 3 weeks into the season
Too
because
long,
I
isn't
think
it? It's
it's
too long. What are
ridiculous.
you doing it now for?
I don't know, because even this summer I felt like a massive drag with the Euros and stuff as well. So I was like really itching for Arsenal to come back, and then you finally get it back, and then it's taken away. So I'm ready for it to. Well, it's every 3 days now, pretty much until
Yeah,
the end of the calendar year, isn't it? But there is
yeah.
another international break.
I
Is
think
it
there's one
next
in
month?
November, isn't there? And I think there's one in October as
I
well.
think there is, yeah. It's absolutely bonkers. But yeah, I just don't care about international football. I've always been a club over country kind of guy, but
The only
it's
way I'm
back.
watching them is to which is obviously part of the reason today, but is to watch the players not get injured. And look what's happened.
Yeah, I know. We'll touch on that in a second, obviously, with Odegaard. But yeah, when Saka got subbed in like the 67th minute, I turned the TV off. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, done.
But before we get into the North London derby preview, Mikel Arteta, the gaffer, he's obviously penned paper on a contract, pen to paper on a contract extension. So he's here till 2027 now. Penny for your thoughts?
Love it. Very well deserved. I see. I see. Well, just you've said it before many a time. It depends on your Twitter timeline or your bubble, but you do get some idiots that sort of seep into it for some reason, and you're just like, why are we giving him a new deal? And then you get the United fans coming in, going, oh, "Look at these jokers! They're giving Arteta another deal, and Ten Hag's won the League Cup and the FA Cup." And we're like, "Well, I can see Arteta here in 5 years. I can't see Ten Hag here in 5 games." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if you lose to Southampton on Saturday. So it's stability. We're the most stable club in the league, and that's just confirmed it even more. Without with the pet thing, with everything on the landscape out there. So yeah, I love it. And after the Wenger era, I never thought we'd go back to having someone a long-term manager, but I can see why where else is he going to go? For starters, if
Yeah.
I think he wants to win stuff with us. Now, if he wins what we expect us to win in the next couple of years in that window, then it's a different conversation. But I just think he could be the legacy manager that we never thought that we'd get.
Yeah, I completely agree. I could see him staying here, not indefinitely, but for a long, long period of time. But I agree, if we do go on and win everything in this 3 year window, then there might be a different conversation to be had. But let's not worry about that
You
just
just
yet.
don't, yeah, you just don't want to get into that last final season syndrome where it's has he signed, has he signed, has he signed, are you signing, aren't you signing? But which is what happened with Wenger, which will happen with Pep. Every press conference will become, "Are you staying? Are you?" So that you don't need. And look what happened with Klopp. You don't need to get into that. So and it's the stability for players. Who is where you're going to go? You got Saka there. You got Saliba there. All signed up. All the manager all sewn up. So it's a nice stable place to be in comparison to a lot of other places at the moment.
Yeah, nicely summarized. And next week, I'm actually going to do a little deeper dive into Arteta and why I'm happy with the appointment and everything. So yeah,
It's an
tune in.
unusual one as well, isn't it? Because if you look at saw something yesterday that the average length of a manager across the 5 leagues of Europe is 1.5 years.
No way.
Yeah, 1.5 years. So you think of that and what we've done with what we do with Arteta. I mean, a lot of that's probably to do with the Chelsea. So
Yeah,
you have
true.
you average in Chelsea's managers, and that brings down the average a little bit.
I
But
wonder
I
where
know
he stands in terms of
it,
longest serving managers in the league now. He must be one of the highest, right?
in the Premier League,
Yeah,
I think he's second.
that's nuts.
And then if you go across, but if you look at even across Europe, I mean, I don't follow that closely, but It's 5 years, so you're going on to how many 8 years? If he stays he will stay the length of his contract unless we have a massive downturn and you are suddenly shit. If you're shit, you get sacked. Simple. So it won't. So, and we don't think he's going to be shit. So
very confident.
We're happy, and we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and speaking of shit, someone's fed me some dodgy lasagna this week. So if you know, you know. So if there's a swift exit, it's very typical on North London Derby weekend. But hopefully someone's feeding Spurs some dodgy lasagna. Let's get into the preview. Before we do that, Nima's in the chat. Morning, boys. Like you said, I can't remember if we'd already hit go live or if this was just before we hit go live. We're both a little bit confused on what the hell we're going to do. So what we usually do is we look at the last lineup, which was against Brighton, and we'll use that to kind of predict what we're going to do. But I think this week's a little bit different. So for podcast listeners, I've got the usual graphic on screen, which was the lineup against Brighton. And for anyone that can't remember, it was Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel Timber, Partey, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, Havertz, Trossard. Now, Rice obviously got suspended. We're not going to go into that. We've covered it. Mike already touched on it. Odegaard got injured midweek for Norway, which is a pain. We haven't had any official confirmation that he's out, but I think a lot of the kind of Twitter doctors and I believe even the Norway team doctors come out with a quote saying 3 weeks or something. So Arteta's press conference is later today, so let's work on the assumption he's out. Mikel Merino, I think, is someone that would have naturally come in for Rice, but he's injured. So what we're going to do instead, we've got this graphic on screen. Now, you might have to squint, but it's just to guide discussion. You don't really need it. But for anyone that wants to check it out, go to transfermarkt.com. There's a really nice graphic that I think just illustrates how well we've put together the squad. Because I've seen a lot of doom and gloom this week and people saying, oh, we left ourselves short and this and that. And I don't think we have. I think we've recruited well, and I don't think you can plan for a scenario where your first choice midfield is either suspended or injured. I just don't think you can plan for that. I think it's a ridiculously unlucky set of circumstances. But if you look at this graphic, and then I'll take it off the screen in a second and we can get into what we think the team will be, it basically shows every player and the different positions they can play. And almost every player, apart from the specialist centre-backs and Zinchenko, which you could even argue he can play somewhere else, is capable of playing in 2 or 3 areas of the pitch. And that's what I just look at the solutions we've got. And I feel excited. Excited is probably the wrong word to use, but I get very intrigued.
Intrigued.
Curious.
Intrigued is the same. I'm the same as you. It gives us an opportunity to look at something different. That we know Arteta as a manager doesn't tend to rotate that. We've discovered that. We thought he was going to do that, but we know it's just the odd 1 or 2 left. It's normally left back, isn't it? The left back, or it's the left. It's the left side is the one he normally tweaks, and he's got the options there. So we kind of become accustomed over the last 18 months, 2 years, to an Arteta starting 11 where the predictions were pretty much you could get 10 out of 11. On this occasion, I just think losing a player like Odegaard, who is the unique player in that midfield, where you can't. There's so many versatile players there that can drop in, whereas Odegaard gives you something that I don't think anyone else does. So I think that could be the miss of trying to piece him in. But we don't want to, if we're talking about who we're dropping in and what formation and what player we're going to put in, there are so many different combinations, which is the exciting thing. And that's something that if we don't know what we're going to do, then what the hell are Spurs? How are they going to prepare for this situation?
Speaking of, we've got one of them in the chat. Above average is in. He says he's booing us, and he's put the 4-letter acronym that I'm not going to say out loud. But welcome if you're still here.
Welcome, Adam.
Yeah. So what you said there is a really good point, and I feel like there's 2 questions. One is what you said about Odegaard. Who would you say is the most similar in profile to him in the squad
that we could pick?
Yep. Not saying they're as good as him. Just who would you say is the
No.
closest in profile to him?
Well, I think this is the thing, and you got Nwaneri is the sort of the successor who has been mentored by Odegaard, who's been lined up as the next one. Would I put him in? No, not starting.
No.
I wouldn't start with him. Last 15, last 20, yes.
You wouldn't. Do you think Arteta would?
No, what start? What I wouldn't start with him. Or do you think I wouldn't start with him? Do you think Arteta would start with him? No. Do you?
No, I don't either.
Not in North London derby. Not away. Not away.
No, I can see him playing like Leicester at home, Southampton at home. I can see him getting those games.
So who do you think is the most closest to Odegaard?
I think it is Nwaneri in the squad. And again, not saying he's anywhere near as good as him, just in terms of what you can get in terms of the angles and the on-the-ball qualities. But I think the thing that you miss with Odegaard is the off-the-ball stuff. Like, he's the instigator of the press, the way we press in a 4-4-2. As much as I said, I'm not sure what I think we're going to do. I actually feel like I've landed on something just by the way we're talking about what we lack and what we can get elsewhere. And we do, off the ball, I feel is such an important thing for Arsenal in how good we've become, right? And I think one of the reasons he won't put Nwaneri in is to Spurs' credit. I think offensively, they're very good and like their positional rotation and they'll dominate the ball. I think I wish I had the stats in front of me for the last 2 games. I'm sure.
I think it was 63% they had.
Was it? Yeah, and even in the first
63,
game. Yeah, so I feel like they'll have more of the ball. And I feel like that's a lot to put on a 17-year-old to like positionally be disciplined. Like you want him to come in against Leicester, Southampton, where he still has to put in his shift off the ball, but the onus is more on him to get on the ball and express himself.
Or you bring him on with 15 to go, because that's another thing we need to talk about is all of these players that we are going to slot in here in this formation to deal with this game are all minutes risks, as in none of them have done 90.
Yeah,
Partey's the only one that's done 90 this season. Jorginho, not 1 minute in Premiership football. I think he got a bit in the pre-season, but not 1 minute. Last game was way. Don't even think he started the last game of the season. So that's an issue. So if you're thinking of Jorginho, Partey pivot, are both of them going to play 90? Then we're talking game stakes. What's it if it's 1-0 up? What's if we're 1-0 up and we've got Partey and Jorginho on the pitch at the same time? Then what's the plan?
Yeah.
What if we're 1-0 down and we've got Jorginho and Partey on the pitch? There's so many
permutations, isn't it?
There's so many permutations with the minutes risk because Jorginho is not going to play. I mean, I've gone through everything and I'm thinking Jorginho Partey pivot, or it's the spacing, or you have one on the right with 10 yards away and you can trust them to do that. But are they both going to play 90 minutes? No. So then you have one. Do you start with Partey? I don't know. This is what this is what we're going to get to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good point. And that's the thing, to be honest, I hadn't really considered the whole what happens if, when, then. I think I just thought, what's the best team to start this game and try and win it in 70 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
I hadn't really considered that.
We do the soak up, do the classic hit and run, don't sit back, but play in a way that because defensively we have no injuries. Defensively, we're still going to be strong. Now, we have a doubt on Timber and Calafiori, don't we? So they're the two.
What's the doubt on Timber?
As in he came off with.
Oh, because he played for the Dutch national team, so he's fine.
So it's whether you want to put him next to. Then you start Calafiori with Timber with Partey. So Timber's, this. I mean, what I just know. I think what we think Arteta's going to do, he'll do something. He'll tweak something, and whatever you start with, he's talked about 44 formations in the same game. So there's and that sort of backs up what you're showing on the screen. There is the depth that you've got with the versatility that I think Saka could play in the Odegaard role.
Same, and
But
we've got a Sterling
but
that's come in, who's a competent right winger.
but
So
do you want to do that in the North London? You know, you almost want to don't move as keep your strong players in the strong positions, and don't tweak four players or four positions to get one shoehorn one player in that might do the job. I think we've paid with that in the past.
can I tell you my one unpopular opinion on why I don't love the Saka at right 8 thing is I'm in possession and on the ball, sure, we have like two left eights, right? Out of possession, which is like, I think we have to assess Arsenal as an out of possession team and an in possession team. Saka is not capable of pressing the same way that Odegaard does, and that right 8 becomes one of the front two when we press. That's why I don't see this Saka right 8 thing happening unless it's against a Leicester at home and Southampton at home. So I guess the question to move it on to the actual predictions is, do you think we'll see a change from our typical, let's just say 4-3-3 system?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. But again, but what I say is, what I think what you're seeing, I just think it'll move in game. You know, game state, game possession. After 20 minutes, reassess. I just think that it's what we think he's going to start with will change. I've come to the sort of the conclusion 4-2-3-1. You know, double pivot. It allows you, but I've heard. You know, we've said it many times. We're a 5-5 team, aren't we? So
yeah, I think in this game it will be more of a 6-4.
6-4, and it's who you choose as your 6 and who you choose as your 4. And going back to the graph or the screen, you can drop in players that can fit in. But you know, do you have Havertz? Let's talk of having Havertz at left 8, Havertz at right 8. You know, Havertz or just Havertz floating along. You know, do you go long?
And it's worth saying, when Odegaard's missed out before, Havertz was the one that played in his position. I think this is where the domino effect is really annoying, because I think there's one thing losing Declan Rice, then there's another losing Odegaard. And like I said before, Merino was probably the most natural replacement for that left 8.
Because he was going to open up the left-hand hub. But I always feel, you know, am I wrong? Did Odegaard actually not play that well at Tottenham away last season?
To be honest, I can't remember.
But not that, you know, it's irrelevant. But it's also true that after every international break, Odegaard is always off of it. It always takes him 1 or 2 games after, no matter who we're playing. So, right,
I like it. I like the copium.
Yeah, well, we need to, don't we? Because we have to face it. Look, we've got, and I think we're lucky. Hopefully, that it is only 3 or 4 weeks, and it's not 3 or 4 months, because that's a huge difference. So.
Yeah, I think I've got my predicted lineup. Should I go for it?
Yeah,
I think it leans into.
I need your help because I'm all over the gaff. I'm going from one to the other. I'm listening to various pods and threads during the week, and suddenly you go, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea," and I say, "Oh no, that's a good idea," and everyone's got valid points. So, you know, go for it.
Yeah, so mine stems from what I think is the most successful way to beat this Tottenham team is a mid block, which we defend in anyway very well, defending out of possession in a 4-4-2, and the ability to spring on them very fast, very direct. I think they can be very vulnerable in certain areas defensively and just behind their midfield. And so what I think, do you know what? Before the Rice and Odegaard news, I was very confident Calafiori would have started this game, because I think his ability to drive and carry would completely disrupt them.
Yeah.
So, but I think now with 2 enforced changes minimum, I just think that's one too many. So I think it's going to be David Raya in goal, obviously. I think it's going to be Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel Timber. I think it's going to be, I'm going to just say a 4-4-2, but like you said, I think it will be a very fluid thing that moves and interchanges. I think you're going to see a more disciplined double pivot of Jorginho and Partey, and really have them behind the ball, like a mid block where they're not having to move around. And because what Spurs do with Porro, with Kulusevski, with whoever plays there, it's really smart the way they look to manipulate and rotate. I think Partey and Jorginho will be a disciplined double pivot. I think you'll have a direct winger in Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, as always. And I think it will be a front two of Jesus and Havertz. And why I think it will be them, Jesus apparently is back. When we press, usually it's Havertz and Odegaard leading it, right?
Yeah.
So Havertz has already won in there. Jesus is the next best pressing
Yeah.
forward in the team, in my opinion. And I think that off the ball is the closest to what we do anyway. And it's more on the ball. I think when we get the ball, you've got Jorginho. You can't replace what Odegaard does,
No.
but you can get something similar in different areas of the
So you've got the
pitch.
press in from Jesus, and you've got the sort of the pass in, and the with Jorginho sort of
And
knocking
Party
it
as
about.
well,
Yeah,
yeah.
Party, yeah.
And I just think, and as well as that, I think Jesus, when he's playing and his kind of on the ball attributes, him and Havertz, I
They've
think
got a nice little
I think,
relationship, haven't they?
yeah, and I think Romero's positional discipline is poor. I think he can really be mugged and like rotated around, follow Jesus into midfield, attract a lot of space. Porro can do his thing, and like we'll look at Spurs' predicted lineup, well, not their predicted lineup, but what they've done previously in a second. But I just think I spoke to James from Planet FPL this week, and he said there's a growing feeling, and you can understand it, of confidence, like when your rivals are missing two of their best midfielders. So I think they may fall into a little bit of a dangerous arrogance, and that could feed into us. I think this is a game to set up in a mid block, let them have the ball, let them play their pretty football, but let's just be effective, soak it up, hit them. Like, it sounds a bit Mike Bassett 4-4 fucking 2. It's not sexy, but we've won there twice in a row.
Venus flytrap it. Just let Spurs be Spurs.
Yeah.
Just okay. Well, we know how you. But as long as we can get out, that's the because they are a good team. They will be up for it. But I'm sort of looking at Romero on this, the Argentinian Mustafi.
Agree.
And see what he's how he plays, because that's where in the last 15 minutes I can see Sterling doing some damage against someone like our friend from Argentina, because he's not disciplined, and Sterling's a master at that. If Sterling was Saka in that Brighton game where he had the chance to go down,
he would have.
The incident I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember it.
That's a penalty. We're getting that penalty. So and that's what Sterling can hopefully teach Saka a few things, the dark arts like that. But in that last 20 minutes, as long as we stay in the game, right? Stay in the game. Don't get. I think it could be, as always, first 20 minutes at their places, they're going to be up for it. Just shut them up. Just keep it controlled, and I think that ties into you're not putting in them where in this environment. You're putting in two old timers like Jorginho and Partey, and you're saying, right, boys, just do your job. But it's the fitness that I'm worried about. It's the fitness of those two that I'm worried about, and that's why I was talking about the game state of what happens if this, and who was coming on at 60, who's come, because it really is going to be a game of starters and finishers. This,
but I think when you've lost Rice and Odegaard, you can't be too over analytical in the different game states. I think it's a case of that. Go on, I'll give you 30 seconds to buy yourself time to think about, if you had a gun to your head, what you think the lineup will be. In the meantime, I'm just going to shout out a couple of the guys that have joined in. Two Slavs in, morning everyone, and Nick Fadley's in. Hello, guys, girls. If you're in, let us know what you think the team will be. It seems very divided this week, and also send in your score predictions. Adam from Above Average as well, if you want to send in your 2 pence, what you think the score will be. Go on, Mike. What are you going with?
I'll go the White Saliba Gabriel. I'll go Calafiori.
You think Calafiori will start?
Yeah, Calafiori will start. So that's your 4. Then obviously you're going to put. I'm going Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli.
Okay.
That's your 3.
For a minute, I thought you were describing the midfielders.
No. I'm still buying myself time. So then I'm going to go one or the other. I'm going to go Partey with Jorginho as your option to come on.
Sure.
And then I go Timber.
So say that lineup back to front for me.
So it would be your almost like your 4-2-4. So and then Jesus as well.
Sure.
So you've got Havertz, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you've got it's a 4-2-4 effectively,
Yeah.
but with coming in
With
and
Partey and
with
Timber as the two.
as just two sort of as your pivot. That on that left hand side, I think, and with Calafiori coming out and
Yeah, I like that.
with the outball of Martinelli as well. I think he stays solid. You're shutting Kulusevski down. He's playing quite well in a different position. Porro coming in as well. I think he could just shut that side down a little bit more with and Timber as a sort of a bit of an enforcer with Partey, and then you break out with your quick boys and your runs from Havertz as well.
I'd seen that lineup on Twitter actually, and I do like it. And to be fair, like even though Timber's been starting as a left back, he's often been in central areas anyway, right?
That's what I mean. So I mean, you can say, well, as Arteta ever started with two left backs? No, but okay, your other option is Zinchenko there, and I know what I'd rather have. I'd rather have Timber, and then do you bring on Zinny with 15 to go? Because my lineup's more with about the game state of the fitness, the minutes, and the 20, 15 minutes to go, where you can bring on a Jorginho for a Partey or Zinny for a Timber, but then imagine that you end in the North London derby with potentially with Zinchenko and Jorginho in midfield. Now that's a fighting in thought, but we are where we are.
Yep. All right. Fair play. We'll move it on to Spurs' lineup in a second. Just got Richard Hutchinson is in the chat saying, "Good morning, Clayton and FplMikeH and chat." I'll come on to his prediction later, but he asks, why does it say Brighton on the title? And it's just because that was the 11 we've got on the screen was the lineup that played against Brighton. And I'll come back to Richard's other questions later on. Nick Fadley's said, it's hard to cook without Rice. Yeah, always hard to cook without Basmati. He says Call's injured, right? And yeah, we touched on this earlier. When we haven't got anything concrete. I don't know if you've seen anything, Mike, but I haven't seen anything other than like he's a doubt. But yeah, obviously presser's later today, so we'll know then. But Nick thinks the midfield will be Jorginho, Partey, Havertz. So yeah, lots of different ways to skin it this week. When the lineup drops at like 12:45, it's going to be so interesting. But
yeah.
Moving on to Spurs. So the lineup that they went with against Newcastle was Vicario in goal, Porro, Dragusin, Romero, Udogie, midfield three of Basuma, Maddison, Sarr, and then the front three of Odegaard, Kulusevski, and Son. I didn't actually watch their game, but I heard they played quite well. And I think Solanke's obviously a doubt for them. Van der Ven's a doubt. I think if Van der Ven's out, like I think Dragusin's a competent player, but I think he's no Van der Ven in terms of like recovery speed and stuff. But even James from Planet FPL was talking about quite an aggressive midfield three that they might opt for with Basuma. I forgot who he said the others were as well. Was it like Maddison, Kulusevski? So Basuma's also a doubt, though. I think he got injured for Mali. So yeah, I'll be honest. I don't really know what they go with, but I don't really care. I just think it's I kind of want them to go with that very attacking midfield.
The two big ones are Solanke and Van der Ven for them, aren't they?
Yeah,
I think that changes everything for their confidence, for them as a team. Bit more physical presence up front with Solanke and a bit of pace at the back. So totally different game if you take those two components out. So yeah, but let's see what they've got to offer. Maddison's looking on fire. Well, I wouldn't say on fire, but he looks on form. Looks a bit. But that's a September James Maddison, isn't it? So September and October. Yep. He's all right, and
tweet about November, everything, and then go quiet.
Yeah, and then go quiet till April, and miss out on an England squad again. So yeah, that's standard. So they did all right. I'm sure they will be up for it. Atmosphere is going to be lively. So yeah, but that is big for them. That Solanke call, because I think
It's funny that, like, obviously a lot's been made, I think, because Rice and Odegaard are confirmed out. Well, Odegaard's not confirmed out, but I think 99% confidence
yeah,
we can say he's out. Where Van der Ven and Solanke, I'd almost not considered it, and I don't know if there's something in there, like the level of the two clubs, but Van der Ven and Solanke, I'd argue, are as big misses for them. And I'd just say,
yeah,
like, Rice and Odegaard, obviously, much better players in their positions and stuff, but excuse me, I just think we've got alternative solutions. Like the drop off for them is quite big if Van der Ven
yeah,
and Solanke aren't in there. And what you said as well, if Solanke isn't there, I don't know if they'll go with Kulusevski up top or Son, but either way, I think Solanke will not back himself, but he'll give Saliba and Gabriel a physical battle. He'll give them a go. Son
yeah.
Kulusevski won't. It'll
No,
be a different problem,
they're
like in the
different,
way
yeah.
that. But yeah,
But then if you've got like Calafiori is back, then you've got they're four monsters at the back, mate. They're munching up everything, you know.
yeah.
So bring on Solanke if he is playing, because I'd still back those four. I mean, we got to remind ourselves, best defense in the league. Fact. Yeah, we're all worried about Rice and Odegaard's the emission from that, but we've just got to back ourselves and you know, I think at the start of the week I was, I'll take a draw, you know, and now I'm trying to, like, you know, more of the weeks coming to it, but then I think it's just such a roller coaster, isn't it? Because you get there and you're suddenly like, you know, if you ask me at 2 o'clock at kickoff when they're singing all their songs in the hit, I'm like, fuck it, I'll take a draw.
No.
But you shouldn't be, should you? No, because it's just the emotion of the day, you know. I hate the day. The day is just awful. It's a stomach churning, absolutely awful experience. And that's why I just think the draw is the coward's way out. It's the bottle. I'll take the point because I don't need the stick. I don't need all the shit that I'm going to get. But really, we need the 3 points. You know, we cannot go. Well, the thought of losing is horrendous, and the thought of losing our next 2 games horrendous. And yeah, I know you're quite bullish about the score, aren't you?
I wouldn't say I'm bullish. I'm just not as doom and gloom as
Not as
everyone else
shitting
seems
yourself
to
as
be.
much as me.
Yeah, like no, it's and I was the same. Like, of course, when Rice was suspended, when I was physically in the stadium for the Brighton game, my first thought was, "Fuck it, Spurs away without Rice." And then obviously you see the Odegaard news. But then the more I was like solutionizing and what we do, like this is a bonkers thought process. But I think if there's ever a game you can get by without an Odegaard, I think it is a game like this where the onus is on you to have less of the ball and hit them a bit more directly.
Stay physical. You're
Yeah,
missing. You can miss him, but you can replace some of the qualities with what we talked through with, like Jesus, with the pressing trigger and that kind of thing. But
yeah,
you could. There are other ways that we can do it. Whereas I mean, I don't think the trouble is over the last 2 years, I think he's probably missed about 3 or 4 games, isn't he, Odegaard? So we don't get an opportunity to. You know, I think there was a game where Vieira came in and done well. Brentford away, wasn't it? And Vieira came in and done well. And that's the other thing. The ironic.
There was another one against Burnley where I think it was like Havertz and Trossard kept interchanging, and that looked good. But I just think it's like, lads, it's Tottenham. Literally, it's. I would take a point at the Etihad right now if you offered me it. I don't feel so confident. I'll be honest, going there. Like, I think City have looked. They've started the season stronger than they usually do, in my opinion. I don't have any data to back that up, but just on the eye, they look a little bit more sharper than they usually do.
And that's without Rodri and without Foden.
Yeah, but for Tottenham, like, of course, there's a chance we can lose this because they're a good team, but I wouldn't be snatching for a draw. I think they're a good team. We're a good team. And even forgetting that Rice and Odegaard exist for a second, like, the alternatives aren't mugs. Yeah. So score prediction wise, I wouldn't say I'm bullish. I think there is a high chance we drop points, but I also think there's a high chance we can go in there and win. So I'm going 2-1 to the Arsenal. I think it will be a game where, it's funny, you spoke about going there and shushing the crowd. I ironically don't really see that. I think they are going to start with most of the ball. I don't think we'll have most of it to start. But I think there'll be periods where they're passing it side to side, really pretty, but we're disciplined in our mid block and we are effective when we go forward. I think they'll be lured into overloading and positional discipline gets away from them, and that's what I'm hoping it's a game where it just shows boys v men, and I would love it if we make it a hat trick of winning there. I saw a stat, the winning there twice in a row was the first time since 1988, so I don't want to know when the last time winning three in a row was, if ever. But yeah, I'm going 2-1 to the Arsenal. Just before we get your prediction, just had some confirmation from Nick Fadley, who says Van de Ven is not injured. And same from Tenepool as well.
Okay. I will. I'm struggling on this one. I'm never going to predict Spurs win. I'm never going to do that.
All I'd say, if that's your honest thought,
no,
then give it.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not. I can't, mate. I'm not admitting to those thoughts. I'll be taken away. I'm going 1-1.
Okay.
I'll go 1-1. I'll go 1-1.
How do you see the game panning out then?
I think they might get a. I actually think they might get the first goal, and then go. They're sort of. I think we could be holding on. We're not holding on, but sort of it could be rocky for us for a period, and then they're going to get a little bit excited with that, and I think that's where we'll get back. And I think we'll have a couple of chances to win it. I hope I'm wrong on this. This is just my gut.
Yeah, no. I think it's always better to be honest.
I just think we might miss that little bit of. Again, it goes to. I keep going back to it. It's the minutes risk of the likes of the people that are asking to step up. Even Jesus, even Califiori, who hasn't played a full 90. Timber hasn't played a full 90. He's coming off the back of last year, and we got Zinchenko as your other option, who we know his risk. So yeah, I just think, and that may catch us out a little bit.
Sure. So, yeah. All right. Well, we've got a couple of the guys in the chat have given their predictions. So obviously said Richard Hutchinson, sorry if I got that wrong earlier, said he thinks it will be a Desmond 2-2. We've got Nick Fadley who's in and says it will be a 2-2 as well. So quite a few draws in there. Nima's sent me his prediction on WhatsApp. So obviously there's only been 3 games so far, but he's got 2 of them correct. And we both got the Brighton one wrong. I got the Villa one wrong. I thought we'd draw there, but we obviously won. What do you reckon Nima's gone for?
Oh, I think he's gone 1-0 Arsenal.
1-0? No, he always thinks we're going to score about 17 goals minimum. 3-1 to the Arsenal. Nima's gone.
Go on, yes.
No holding back. He's been enjoying the red wine in Paris, I think. I think
he's high on the smell of baguettes and wine.
Yeah, let's bloody hope it's a 3-1. That would be unbelievable. But yeah, I think it makes sense. There's lots of diversity in lineup predictions, score predictions, because there's so much uncertainty around the lineup. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of those. It's one of those you could almost ask everyone again once you've seen the lineup. Once you've seen their lineup, once you've seen our lineup, I bet if you ask everyone the prediction, then it could be different to what we're predicting now.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Usually, I feel so. You said it earlier. It's like a stomach churner and stuff, but I feel relatively chill at the minute. I think it will hit me on the morning of the game, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see. We've just got one question before we get out of here, and it was from Richard Hutchinson. Will Arsenal win the Premier League, Champions League, EFL, and FA Cup this season?
I don't think we're going to win all 4, despite someone else possibly thinking that. We need to. Whether I think it or not, we need to. And I'm not saying that as an ultimatum to Arteta or anything, because I do believe he's the man and we're progressing. But whether we think it or not, I think we could be in a very good position to. But we only need a couple more dodgy referee decisions like that last week, and our season's fucked. And that could be the same for everyone. Do I think we can? Yes, I do. That's the simple
What was
answer.
that? Do we?
I think we
do
can. I think we can win the league. I think
Oh yeah.
at the start of the season, I thought, yeah, we're going to win. This is our year. We're going to win the league. But and I haven't thought that for a long time. I never thought that last year. I never said it to myself. I thought we're going to win the league this year. But then you say you go back to you look at City. There's so many variables. I mean, we're on an Arsenal podcast. Yes, we think we're going to win the league. You know.
Yeah, for what it's worth, it's a good point because I was very confident in the summer and coming into the season thinking we'd win the league this year, and it was partly knowing how good we are, but it was also partly just feeling that year on year, City aren't necessarily improving on like the individual metrics and everything, but I feel like they always start the season a little bit slower and give themselves the pressure to need to go on a run. The way they've started this year's made me concerned. Yeah. Because I feel like there's not that onus. Well, if they keep it up, there's not going to be that onus on them to need to go and blitz it. So we'll see. But of course,
we could be 8 points behind in a week's time.
Possibly, yeah. But
we don't want to be negative, but that's so we could be. But it's a long.
I do think we'll win a trophy. But like, don't get me wrong. I think as much as it would be great to win an FA Cup or a League Cup, like
it's meaningless in where we're going, but it does it stops the Twitter trolls. That's all that does.
If we get an FA Cup and a League Cup, but then we end up dropping down to like 75 points, I don't class that as a success.
No,
I'd rather
absolutely not.
Yeah, what we do in 38 game weeks for me is the most indicative indicator of where we're headed. So yeah, of course it would be great to win it. Champions League, I still think we're a year too early. Like if we can better what we did last season, sure, but like look, how many attempts did it take Pep and Man City to win that competition? I think we need to humble ourselves a little bit in the Champions League, but Premier League, absolutely, we'll be there or thereabouts. But for me, it's just year on year. As long as we keep, Arteta said this when in his interview. I don't know if anyone's seen it when he renewed his contract yesterday. It's about the processes in place that sustainably get you there. And I think as long as we continue to maintain that, the honours will naturally come, whether it's this year or in a few years. I think they'll slowly start coming in. So I'm not worried.
No.
Just before we get out of here, I'll just say hello to Tommy Gunn, who joined in. He said, sorry he's late. No worries, buddy. Hope you're good, mate, and enjoy your weekend. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Uncle Mike, thanks for coming in. Let's hope your score prediction is wrong.
Yes.
Let's hope we do.
Let's hope Nima's is right.
Yeah, let's hope Nima's is right. It's the start of a big period with a game every 3 days pretty much, and it's a big week. Tottenham away, Atalanta away, City away. If we can come out of this one with a healthy squad, good points on the board, good performances,
then we'll be able to have a different conversation. If you're asking us, do you think we're going to win the league? And if we can come out of these with 9 points effectively, then because it is a league now, isn't it? In that, so we can say, right, we're in a very, really good place to go. So just keep the faith. Just keep the faith.
Let's see how we get on. Let's go and fucking do these. Up the Arsenal. Come on.
Up the Arsenal.